Hope you're having a great Monday, everyone. Thank you for spending part of it with us. I'm JB Long, and this is the Coach McVay Show with special guest Les Snead on this short week. And thank goodness for short weeks and a trip to Seattle in Week 5, DeMarco.
Let's get back to the field ASAP. Absolutely.
And let's bring in Les Snead. And this is normally the part of the calendar, Les, where we would say, all right, you're at the quarter pole. You've played 4 games. Normally you like to go 3-1 or better to get to your ultimate goal. With a 17-game schedule, I guess we're a little off track in terms of our math, but the point still stands. Why don't we start with yesterday's game and your reaction to the Rams' first loss of 2021? What were your big takeaways?
Takeaways, I always go, all right, what lessons did we learn? What can we apply? How fast can we apply them? That's really what you have to do after a loss, and you have to do after a win. Because as we said, we're 3-1. So if that's at the 25% mark plus the extra game, you're at the 25% mark, right? You still have 3 more quarters to go. So that's where we're at. We're collecting data, trying to figure out who we are and how fast we can get to who we really are going to be.
I think you can, even on this show, acknowledge what we just saw. I thought Kyler Murray was spectacular. He was great. I mean, he's going to be a tough out for anybody, but I don't think you should break the mold just because one guy exploited some problems on game day.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, Kyle, right now he's on pace to be maybe the MVP of the NFL. How long that lasts? Again, he and the Cardinals at the quarter mark. We're at the quarter mark, but when you look at a game, right, and that was week 4, and us playing the Cardinals, and whether you're on the right side of the scoreboard or not, right? It usually depends on, hey, did you do enough to be on the right side of the score, or did they do enough or more to be on the right side of the score? Obviously, yesterday, I think it was a little combination of both, right? They're a good team. They're playing well. And also, there's some percentage that, right, we turned the ball over twice. We couldn't get off the field enough. So there's, we missed a field goal. So we can always look like we had some self-inflicted wounds. But I do think I give the Cardinals, I give Coach Kingsbury, I give Kyler Murray, I give all of them, right? They've won 4 for a reason. They've scored over 30 points in every game for a reason, not by chance.
Mm-hmm. If here in year 3 he has matured into the franchise quarterback that Arizona hoped he would become, then this kind of feels like the new norm in the NFC West. When you look at Russell Wilson being a known commodity and what he can do in terms of a multidimensional threat and extending plays, Kyler took that to the nth degree against the Rams this weekend. And maybe Trey Lance's time is sooner rather than later in San Francisco, based on the latest from the 49ers
what is the latest?
And Jimmy Garoppolo.
I hadn't paid attention today.
They haven't shared the MRI of Garoppolo's calf yet. But I think it's fair to say that sooner rather than later, that will kind of be the complexion of the division and 6 of your 17 games. How do you plan for that? How do you approach that in terms of your team-building philosophy, knowing that that's the reality this season and moving forward?
That's an interesting concept, because when you add that dimension of being able to make plays right off schedule, one of the better ways to do it right is all right, there's got to be you got to have disciplined players, right? You can't just unleash it, because all of a sudden there's a lane for one of those guys to take advantage of, and next thing you know, right, everything you planned for is now out the door, and it's if you want to call it playground ball. And the playground means, right, if a coverage is designed to cover for 2 to 3 seconds, and all of a sudden the play gets to 5 seconds because the quarterbacks are mobile, they can look downfield and find open players. Now, if everybody drops back, guess what? Kyler Murray can take it for 16 yards and kind of sidestep down there. So hey, there's an element of athleticism to be able to contain those players. There's an element of discipline to be able to let's call it, hem them in, not allow them to get. I would say this: those players they're gonna create unscheduled moments. Mm-hmm. You want to contain them. You want to keep those moments to as few as possible, and then overcome those moments when they do happen.
What's the first thing I said to you when I walked in? 3rd and 16. 3rd and 16, that's a win. And he scrambles and gets it. But anyway, every time I see you, especially doing these shows, I want to ask, what year are you in right now? You have to prepare for the now, making this team good, but you also have to keep your foot into the future, where this division's going. This is where these guys are going to be, and this is where we need to meet them. Isn't that where you start with scouting?
Definitely start there. And I know one of the reasons we were intentional about bringing back Leonard Floyd was there was an element last year of playing Russell, playing Kyler, even playing Dak early, right? Because of his range, because of his length, because of his athleticism, his ability to change direction, right? All of a sudden, hey, it's one thing to get Kyler to go that way, but when he decides he's going the other way really quick, right? How do you counter that? Well, someone like him can counter that because he can change. Maybe not as fast, maybe not as quick, but over the course of the play and taking the right angle, he can keep the play from being really damaging. So that's one example of, let's call it team building, when you're also looking a little bit, okay, who's the enemy, who you're playing, right, twice a year instead of once or once every 4 years.
How about through a 4-game sample size, impressions of your quarterback and what Matthew Stafford has done to impress you? I'm sure, I hate the word like what surprises you, because obviously you did a thorough vetting before you made the move, but what do you maybe have more of a profound appreciation for, having now worked with him in your own building?
That's a good question. I would honestly say nothing's surprised me watching him. Mm-hmm. I think Chris Collinsworth articulated this. Sometimes when you're in NFL, right, and you're not on Sunday nights a lot, you're not on Monday nights a lot. So we all got to see Matt, if you played against him, maybe on that Thanksgiving day. But I think when you went and studied him and said, wow, that's a really impressive QB, and it might be okay because it's not like seeing Aaron Rodgers and we see him 6 times a year on prime time, right? And you can get a better feel, but all of a sudden you go back and study Matt and go, man, that's a pretty impressive quarterback in terms of, take this, went to his pro day, heck, whenever he came out. I was in Atlanta then, we had drafted Matt Ryan the year before. We were not looking for QB, but we're in Atlanta. Athens is right down the road. They always have a pretty good subset of players at Georgia. I just know this, at that pro day, no doubt this guy can throw a football and throw it as good as anyone. But I do think as we went and studied him last year and then see him come to the Rams and bring it to life was the experience, the savvy, the instincts, all of that, however that's getting mixed up in his mind, in his brain, in his ability to process football and bring it to life is what's really impressive.
I thought he was a pretty good mover as well. I mean, Kyler, we talked about him, but one of his last Matt Stafford's scoring drives where he kept the pressure on the defense in the red zone when there's nothing there and he kept moving up the field, attacking the goal line. I thought that's special. I mean, there's no gap between a bad play and a good play for that quarterback if you keep moving forward.
Great point. We've seen him be able to step up.
Yeah.
You get pressure right from the ends. He'll step up. He has the courage to step up, and when he steps up, right, he's still looking downfield. He wants to pass. And we've also seen him be able to spin out and get outside and manipulate coverages and do the sidearm stuff, by escaping outside. He probably, right, it's not as fast as Kyler, so he might not get that 3rd and 16. He might only get 8 out of it, maybe 10. But we saw him yesterday do a few things, right, where he's competitive and things weren't there, and he obviously said, you know what, I'll tuck it and make a few guys miss and lower his shoulder a little bit.
Yeah, I just, later on, they're going to say, the entire NFC West has mobile quarterbacks, but mislabel Matthew Stafford as just a pocket passer. You saw it on game day. The guy can move.
There's no doubt he can move. And I think he, like I said, he's one of those QBs that, right, the way he's built anatomically, right, he's good center of gravity, really quick in there, and he's got a feel for very mobile in that pocket is what I'm trying to say.
He's enjoying a career low sack rate so far. The offensive line in front of him all grading out pretty well. I know the internal wager that you placed on your returning offensive line this offseason, not really attacking that position group through any of the avenues available to you. How validating is it to see their performance so far, Les?
Can we say that our offensive line has been unfairly maligned? Then, can't we finally admit that? I know there's an anchor, year? Right? Yeah. No, but coming into it seems like for about a few years now, it's been like, oh man, we didn't address I'm like, wait a minute, we actually have addressed the OL. Maybe it wasn't with a let's call it a sexy trade or free agent signing or high draft pick, but a good portion of that offensive line, right, has been drafted, homegrown, developed. A good, we traded for Corbett, we signed Witt, but a good portion of this thing from top to bottom, 1 through 10, 11, however, has been, right, intentionally drafted at some point or signed as a college free agent, developed, and they played cohesively together. I think that's and I get why the offensive line is not an individual player, right? It's 5 people, right, playing together symbiotically, not necessarily just with themselves, but with how Sean's going to attack the defense, how the QB's going to, sit in the pocket, move up, things like that. So I think it's not just, hey, a one-on-one game. It is at times, but what are we going to sum it up by saying the sum is greater than the parts or greater than the individuals, for sure.
I think that I wish Brian Allen never got hurt a season ago or two seasons ago,
19 in Pittsburgh,
because he'd still be the starter and he'd have X amount of experience. I think he's played great. The only surprise I had was Edwards at left guard. When he first went in, I'm like, I'm not so sure, but all he's done is play his butt off and play pretty well in there. That, I guess, would be the only surprise.
It seems like, right, we shouldn't ever be surprised if Wisconsin or Iowa lineman has success in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's, even though and like Wisconsin and Iowa linemen, when you dig into them, they're quarterbacks in high school or tight ends or wide receivers. Somehow they
wind up on the O-line.
Yeah, they wind up on the OL. And
I just thought he was a tackle playing guard, but he's played a pretty good guard spot.
And I do know this, when he started at guard for the first time and our scouts went back to Wisconsin, even the Wisconsin staff I'm surprised he's starting at guard, right? I give those guys credit. They're versatile. Probably the data says if you're in college football, you put your best offensive lineman at left tackle, right? So I would say this: there's a lot of left tackles in college football that end up at guard. So now Dave was a right tackle, but Corbett was a left tackle at Nevada. Yeah. He ends up at guard with us. So it's not surprising that a tackle moves to guard, but maybe it's a little bit more surprising that Dave Edwards moved it.
Yeah, Corbett doesn't surprise me. He looks like a guard. Yeah.
To steal your phrase, maybe no flashy trade for an offensive lineman, but going back a few years, there was one for a corner who's now a stalwart here in Los Angeles. And I wonder if, to your eye, Jalen Ramsey has taken it even to a new level here in 2021.
I don't know if I could look. We traded for a reason. You can go back when he was in Jacksonville. They made a Super Bowl run. I mean, he was playing well. What's neat to see this year is wow, and we've all seen it. Sundays or whenever we play a game, they're different to him. He attacks those days different than most humans. Like, he has a switch and he's going to compete. And he's confident. But it's been neat to see him, right, be versatile, go, hey, I'm going to play corner like a linebacker, right? I mean, that's, there's, I don't want to, pile on the coach at Jackson State, but, I mean, it seems like prime time we talk about business decisions, and he's gone to the Hall of Fame. But Jalen Ramsey says, you know what? My business is I'm going to play corner like Dick Butkus, right? I'm gonna move in. I'm going to blitz like whomever, right? So it's been, I think that's what we've seen, and it's been fun to watch.
Can't you put that on the top of your draft thing, like find more Jalen Ramseys in college?
They're just not
enough.
Okay, it's a bell curve thing, right?
Yeah.
It's skinny right here,
yeah,
for a reason, and so there's more of these corners than there are Jalen Ramsey.
See, I guess it's the same point you made about Matthew Stafford, not seeing him as much, because the only thing I saw about Jalen Ramsey is when you played him, or stuff you read about. And I had that guy totally wrong. I thought he was about just getting paid. He wants to win. You can tell this dude is going to explode if he doesn't win.
No doubt.
I love
Marco, didn't you want to get paid?
I did, but I mean, I wanted to win.
You also wanted to win.
Yeah.
It's not binary.
Of course. I mean, the money's coming. Yeah.
It is that you make a great point. that I think because we're in the entertainment business, right? We're in the platforms now that content gets spread over. It's quick, it's flashy. There's an element of barstool. So yes, probably we as fans saw what Jalen Ramsey show up at training camp in a
the armored car,
Under Armour truck, whatever you want to call it, right? That probably we saw that more than holy cow. He played the Pittsburgh Steelers maybe 2 times that year, once in the regular season, once in the playoffs. They won both games, and oh, by the way, at that point in time, Pittsburgh's go-to guy was, Antonio Brown, and there he is manning him every single play. So unfortunately, because of the business we're in, the entertainment, I'm not saying it's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. The content we probably are most familiar with is maybe the Under Armour truck at the Breeks truck and want to get paid. But when you go back and you get a chance to study those guys, when you do the vetting, I mean, Jalen's smart player. He loves trying to figure out, right, the tactics of what the enemy's trying to do to them, and boy, does he have the confidence and passion to compete and be the best that day and let everyone know it.
Before we get to the Seahawks, I'd love to get a rookie class check-in at this juncture as we open up a new month of October. And
it's early.
It is, but let me preface it by saying what I love about this class is, true to form, they all have found their home on special teams. Like so many of these men have helmets on game day and are contributing in that fashion, specific to their positions. Maybe we start at the top. With Tutu, is it maybe a good sign for the Rams if this ends up being a partial red shirt for him, because it means that the players atop him on the depth chart are having healthy productive
Well, I think
seasons?
if we draft a skill player, right, I'll always look at it, right, there's an element that you got to expect them to have somewhat of a red shirt year. It's just because our 5 eligibles, they're veterans, they're sophisticated, and hey, when I always go, when the rookie comes in, it's 101, and oh, by the way, he's in a PhD class now. So you're going to be far behind. So that's the neat thing, is being able to get these players up to speed. So Van Jefferson, kind of partial redshirt last year. This year, right, letting him play, I guess, with if you want to call it the varsity per se. But Tutu's been a nice. You know what's neat is the negative is we've probably had teams have only punted 9 times against us. That's a negative, right? It'd be nice if he maybe had 9 more punts, but him getting a chance to see. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point this year he does have a breakout punt return at some point, just because of his speed and the way we're beginning to block for him.
And then a couple of guys on defense. Ernest Jones with 10 snaps yesterday. Robert Rochelle seems to be taking in a little snippets here and there and building his inventory at your corner position.
No, very similar. Deep at corner and hadn't had really an injury. But I know as Robert, I know the defensive staff has, okay, let's kind of drip these guys out there. And now it's just, hey, when? It might not be Thursday night because it's a shorter week, but when do you let those guys, right, get on the field more and contribute more, let's call it, on the defensive side of the ball?
At some point, you won't be able to stop Ernest Jones from getting on the field. The more reps he takes, the more experience he gets, plus with that body and his ability. I mean,
at some point that's the if you want to call it the calculus equation of when do you, right, insert the younger, less experienced player that might be ready to help more. That's age-old $1,000 question.
See where you are
to win
mid-season. Yeah, absolutely.
Should we get to some Seahawks and a Thursday night Week 5 preview? Marco?
Because you got to go up there. It's loud. It's cold. Yeah,
but Les, it seems like every time the Rams go up there, and I know the rivalry runs much deeper than just the last collection of 5-6 years, but every trip up there is consequential. I mean, it has ramifications not just for the standings and this rivalry, but where the organizations continue to go from there.
Yes. I mean, yesterday's game's very similar. Give the Cardinals credit for doing what they've done to, right? Okay, they're leading the thing. We're all chasing them now. San Fran speaks for themselves, especially when they've been stable at QB. Unfortunately for them, they hadn't, or fortunately for all of us, they haven't, right? But they've been a Super Bowl contender when they had that quarterback position stabilized. But yes, if you look at since John Snyder, Pete Carroll went into Seattle, they've probably been they got to be top 5 in wins. Right. It's what's impressive about them is, right, they had the Super Bowl run, right? Maybe the veterans get a little bit old and it's time to somewhat start over. But as they've been starting over and coming back, they've been competitive. They've been in the mix. So that is an art form that maybe some of the Steelers organization, maybe the Ravens organization has proven to be able to do, right? When you make those, let's call it Super Bowl runs, but also when it's time to tear down a little bit and build back up, still be competitive. I think that's what they've proven.
I got a lot of respect for Russell Wilson, but I'm sick to death of seeing him.
I want him to play baseball. Kyler and him can go play baseball.
Please, at least for this week. But when people find out
forever.
Forever? Okay, I'm with you.
Their next week means something too.
Okay,
hey, baseball, right? You're talking about money at work. They get paid more in baseball, right?
We're on the same page, but this is more fun. But when people find out what you do in the general public, I'm sure you get advice, unsolicited advice. And every now and then they're right. And this is a great point. From what just happened on game day, that's going to help you on Thursday defending Russell Wilson because of what Kyler Murray just did. That's going to help your defense prepare for Russell Wilson. Is that fair to say?
That is very fair to say. Nothing else I can say. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all were able to see it, but John Walford did a heck of a job last week. I guess the results might not say it, but boy, did he run around out there like Russell Wilson. I was like, he was.
Oh, your backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was, if you want to call it, acting like on scout team, Kyler Murray, and we won't practice as much this week because of Thursday night, but trying to manipulate that. But you're exactly right.
Well, the butcher's right. I just agreed with him. Yeah.
Yes.
What's the saying about imitation and being a form of flattery? There's an element to this game as well with Shane Waldron making the move up north, a couple other members of the coaching staff, and Gerald Everett as well. There does seem to be this thought that the NFC West is more similar than they are dissimilar at this stage in terms of where they are offensively and what they're trying to do.
Great point. It's on the agenda to. I'm still disappointed. It's on the agenda to go, you know what, I'm good with growth, development, opportunity, but I'm like, okay, we should be able to deny Shane Waldron going to our division teams. So, hey, it's I get it. Fair game for 28 other teams, but maybe not a division rival. But Shane's bright, coach got a great opportunity, and I agree, it only hurts the Rams in this rivalry by Shane being a Seahawk and not a Ram. But I'm the GM. I can be selfish, right?
You wish him well, just not twice a year, possibly 3, right? That's how it goes? Yeah.
Seems like last year we played him 3?
Could happen. Absolutely.
A little bit different this time around because your Thursday night football draw is back earlier in the schedule. Week 5 is, I think, generally a good spot for it to fall if you have to go on the road. When the schedule comes out, you probably look for the bye, and where's your Thursday night?
That is true. I know sports science will say you're right. We like playing Thursday night earlier and probably really like playing Thursday night after a loss. Right?
Question about Gerald Everett for 1 second. As a drafter of guys, when you pick them, you want to see them develop. Does that count even when they're not here, just personally between you and the player when you draft him? Like at some point I want to see you reach your potential no matter where it is in the league?
Well, I think the answer would be yes, right? It's pretty cool to see these young people have these dreams and get an opportunity and how far they can go. Right, there is an element of right you wish it wasn't in Seattle. But let's talk nuts and bolts football. We're well aware that if we do a really good job of drafting, developing, right, while Gerald Everett is a Ram, he can help us win games here. And he obviously did. We won a lot of games while he was there. Now, if we can't keep him here for, right, let's call it budgetary, going back to wanting to get paid, you know what I mean? And all players do and should, right? Because it's a short career and you should cash in. So by that, if we do our job drafting, developing, they help us play here, help us win. And oh, by the way, we can't keep them here. Another team wants them, and then at that point, we can get compensatory draft picks that help us, right? Maybe start over again and keep the process going.
One final question away from the Rams organization, at least on the field week to week, and that is this time last year, members of your organization were probably sitting pretty idle, wishing there were more football games to go observe, more film to break down. Now that you're back to a full college football slate, as the staff ramped up and enjoying being back out on the road and scouring the country for that next wave of talent.
They're definitely, they really enjoy going, let's call it we call it August. There's an element right when our scouts visit the schools during training camp, because no one's won or lost a game yet, so the ebbs and flows of emotions. Hey, you go into Ohio State after a loss, it's just a different visit than if you go into Ohio State after a win. So that August, they were really having fun. But I've gotten a lot of text of our guys at stadiums on game day, right, with crowds, and they're having a blast, being out on the road, getting to add that tool to the toolbox that we haven't had in the last, probably, it's definitely last draft, but so getting to see those guys live and do some research on them at their schools and get a feel.
A little bit of a short week. We're all accelerated. Happy to sit down with you, Les, and glad we could squeeze it in a bit early so that you can get to the rest of your Monday evening. What's next on your docket? Next
on the docket, I'm gonna go continue watching film, but I'm gonna spin on the bike. So it seems like loaded question. So it's going to be a little bit of work and exercise.
You sense the urgency.
Good answer.
On a Monday, right? Thousand Oaks at the Rams facility. That's right. Thursday can't come.
Do our listeners know Rudy?
Yeah, they know Rudy. Yeah, Rudy's the guy.
Hey, Rudy, I was trying to get this thing done. You were like in commute, and I was like, we don't need Rudy. I mean, you know what I mean?
No, wait a minute. See?
But they fought for you. They said, we need you. He's got to hit the right buttons. We got no clue of doing this show without you.
The camera shots don't frame themselves.
My man. Yes, sir.
For Marco Farr, for Les Snead, General Manager of your Los Angeles Rams, I'm JB Long. This is a Week 5 edition of the Coach McVay Show. We'll see you Thursday from Seattle.